Hello, everyone out there from the Sales Dev Squad community. It is your host, Mateo Elvira of the Sales Dev Squad. Today, we have a very, very special guest for you. We'll be speaking with Kiefer Dieckamp, who is the sales co-pilot over at Costello. Had the opportunity of actually sitting in on a demo for Costello. It's a very helpful tool. We'll cover a little bit more about what Costello does, but huge fan of Kiefer. Him and I connected a couple months back. Love what he's doing for the sales development community and all of the exciting things that Costello is currently up to. Thanks so much for joining us today, Kiefer. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you doing today, Mateo?
Doing great, man. Thanks so much for hopping on the pod. We definitely appreciate it. I know we have a lot of juicy topics to cover, so would love to just kind of hop into it. A little intro here from my man Kiefer. In the world of spam-mageddon, salespeople have to be 5 times better to get the same results they had in the past. And Kiefer is helping people, specifically reps, execute the most critical moments of any sales call, which could be anywhere between 3 to 5 critical moments. So super excited to have him on the pod here. But Kiefer, do you mind just letting us know a little bit more about kind of your experience into tech sales? I know that you attended like a sales boot camp in Indiana, so would love to just hear a little bit more of like how you got into tech sales. I know you were doing some mortgage consulting work as well as an associate at a car wash. So please, would love to just hear, your background into sales development here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like you did quite a bit of digging to find out just exactly what my career path looked like. So yeah, really, my career in sales started at Mike's Car Wash. It's now Crew Car Wash, pretty big out here in the Midwest. So yeah, I was a sales rep. I pretty much full cycle, I guess, in terms of car washes as sales go, of like, hey, introducing the customer to product, upselling, selling, different products, whether it be wash booklets, different types of washes that we provided, and then actually physically washing the cars as well and following up. So it's kind of, a really good introduction, a lot of good soft skills that you've learned through doing something like that. Then I actually went to Purdue University and studied hospitality there. And right afterwards, I got a job in the mortgage business, doing mortgage consulting. I've been doing that for about 5.5 years before I decided to switch into software. Had a lot of friends in the space who really seemed in a good, headspace, really enjoyed the industry, and I really wanted to take my crack at it. And it was tough trying to make the jump from mortgages to software, just because the industries were vastly different and the interview process is tough, as you know. So a lot of it, they deemed it that didn't translate very well. So what I had to do is I went through a program here in Indianapolis called TechPoint Sales Bootcamp, where actually you go through a series of micro internships of different tech companies in the area. So for me, I went to a company called Perk, MyCOI, Home Advisor, and OneCause. And that just introduced me to, a number of different tech companies and software products that they sold, as well as different ICPs and sales personas that they sell into. Just kind of give you a high-level overview of what all is out there and kind of help provide a little bit of context of what you like to sell, who you like to sell to, things of that nature. And then right after that, they actually help set you up with a bunch of companies to, interview with and see where you might fit best. And I landed on Costello. Really loved the vision that they had over here, liked all the leadership team as well as the current employees. And, this is where I found my home, and I've been here for coming up on a year. Will be September 8th. And so I've been doing sales development for the last year or so.
That's awesome. Congratulations. I can't believe it's almost a year.
Yeah, I know. Time goes quicker as you age, it seems like.
Definitely. And that's awesome to hear. Really exciting to hear that you were already doing full sales cycle over at the car wash there. But yeah, Kiefer, do you mind sharing a little bit with us, what exactly you guys are doing over at Costello? Found it to be a really helpful tool for, I believe, any sales development rep But yeah, I mean, if you mind just sharing a little bit like what you guys are currently doing over at Costello.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, I want to say I appreciate you for demoing it and attempting to trial it. I know it wasn't the right fit at the time, but really Costello is a sales tool that we solve the problem for a lot of people within the sales organization. So really when it's targeted towards SDRs, Costello acts as a co-pilot, and it's a software that reps use while they're in conversations to make sure that they're asking the right follow-up questions or layering questions, choosing relevant customer stories, and even handling objections in real time. Then we provide data and analytics back to the managers to be able to see where these conversations at a high level are breaking down or succeeding, so that way you can work on messaging, marketing, things of that nature, as well as targeted and proactive approaches to coaching and training. But I think that's probably the best way to describe it for this purpose, since we're talking about SDRs, but we do also solve a lot of problems for AEs, sales managers, VPs of sales, sales ops, things of that nature as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, definitely found it super helpful and can definitely see the value that Costello provides when on a call. I myself, I've used like paper scripts or like flashcards right in front of me. So it's really exciting to see just just the great product that you guys have created, and it's all digital. It's right in front of your computer. I'm sure most SDRs have sticky notes on their wallpapers most of the time. So any SDR out there who's kind of looking for a different way to I guess have their script and call tracks and handle objections, I definitely recommend taking a demo of Costello. But I guess kind of going on that, Kiefer, obviously the SDR role has a ton of tools out in the market, whether it's Salesforce, SalesLoft, Costello, Marketo, you name it. I wanted to get your opinion on like how important it is to have the right tools for the job specific for, I guess, a sales development role. And maybe if you wouldn't mind sharing like some of the tools that you guys are currently using over there at Costello as well.
Yeah, that's really a great question. And short answer of that is I think they're not going anywhere anytime soon, and they're very vital to especially sales development reps, their success. And like you said, there's a lot of tools out there, and I think they're vital to making sure that the sales work runs efficiently, as well as making sure that those reps can do what they need to do in a timely and efficient manner. And that's really, coming from the financial services. I talked to an SDR manager over at Salesforce a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned that they're going into that segment just because, financial services is, anywhere between 5 to 10 years behind the times in terms of software and enabling their reps, with these types of tools. So yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of experience with process and tools coming from, the mortgage industry. We pretty much had just like our one software that would create the loan from, originating it all the way through close. And then, we would have stuff like Excel spreadsheets and things of that nature. And then when I came over to Costello, we're very process oriented. So it was awesome because as you know, as an SDR, it's not the easiest job. And some of the things that tools can help alleviate are some of those soft things, such as call reluctance and not knowing what to do or how to do it. Just makes your job a whole lot easier and able to succeed a lot faster. Just kind of helps with that ramp. To kind of expand on what our tech stack looks like today, you mentioned SalesLoft and Salesforce. We have those. We actually listen to calls through SalesLoft as well for our call coaching and reviews and things like that. But there's also great tools out there like Gong, Chorus, all sorts of call recording solutions. There's Drift, there's ZoomInfo, Discover.org, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Literally all those tools in terms of sales enablement are necessary, I think, today in order to make reps successful, especially for the high ups to be able to have visibility and insights into how to actually effectively run these organizations to produce the numbers for the top of funnel that they want to have. So I know I got a little bit sidetracked there, but our tech stack today is SalesLoft, Zoom Info, Salesforce. We do actually use our own product as well, Costello. We have
That's
Drift
awesome.
as well. And then the typical things like Slack, Zoom, video, and things like that, Excel for some other type things too. Google Docs, just, for order forms and things of that nature as well.
Super exciting. It seems like that's pretty much like the standard in most tech startups, at least that I've worked at. And it's super exciting to hear that you guys actually use your own product on prospects. I definitely feel like that it proves the value there and shows that it's definitely a useful tool.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Kiefer, I noticed that on LinkedIn that you guys are obviously growing your sales team over there. You just hired a couple of new reps. Also saw a really cool post of your reps practicing doing role plays on a
Yeah.
basketball court. I thought that was so awesome and super creative on your guys' part. I wanted to ask you, like, how did you guys come up with something like that? And like, why did you guys feel like you wanted to try something new? And, more specifically, why you guys chose like a basketball court out of anything?
Yeah, so to really preface that, and it's something that I enjoy doing, I know the team enjoys doing it. We work in a building called the Union here in downtown Indianapolis, and it's a converted high school. So it's a co-working space for a lot of tech companies, anywhere from startups to a little bit more established companies. And we have a basketball gym in here. And really, we're one of the few that use it on a daily basis. But it actually started from our very first SDR hire, Sam Hay. He was like, hey, I want to role play, but I also want to make sure that we're making the best use of our time as well as getting some exercise. But also, like, how can I conduct role plays in a fashion that we can manage distractions, multitasking, and conducting a conversation all at once, and kind of shooting hoops and role playing at the same time did all of that. So we've been doing that since Costello's inception, a little bit over 2.5 years ago, and still holds true today. And we just onboarded those 3 new SDRs within the last week and a half. And that was the first thing that we kind of did as soon as they onboarded.
That's awesome. I feel like from a culture aspect, it's something new, it's fun, it breaks the ice, but I mean, I feel like it also really helps and helps them kind of retain that information as well. So just wanted to point that out there. I thought that was really creative on your guys' behalf, and it really inspires, hopefully it inspires other sales orgs to kind of shake it up a bit and try something new. But yeah, kind of going off of that, Kiefer, like, it seems like obviously like your product is very process driven. And it seems like your guys' sales org is very process driven. Do you mind maybe walking me through like what the first 30, 60, 90 days for a brand new SDR that comes onto Costello? Do you mind walking me through like what the training program looks like or the resources available to make sure that, reps are ramping successfully, if not even earlier than expected?
Yeah, so really that's another great question. It's still startup mode a little bit in terms of it is a constant learning process, which is great. It helps make sure that us more tenured SDRs are being very mindful and thoughtful of how we go about doing things and how we talk about our product and how we approach sales as a whole. But typically that first 30 days is really just getting their foot in the door and kind of throwing them to the fire, getting them on the phones as soon as possible, teaching them about the tech stack that we have, getting them familiar with the things like Sales Loft and Zoom Info, the ideal customers that we like to call into, as well as the messaging and a lot of role playing. So really the first 30 days, we'll make sure that the reps understand the product, understand what's expected of them on a daily basis in terms of KPIs or metrics that they need to hit, and just making sure that we're there to support them for anything that they need. So we actually sit in kind of like a sales pod a little bit. So as they're conducting phone calls, as soon as they get off, either myself or Spencer, the other SDR with me, but who's transitioning to a sales executive position, will listen to these calls, in real time right afterwards, and just be like, hey, this is how you could possibly handle it within Costello to help you conduct that conversation, versus like, hey, great call. This is how you could have done this. And we really just provide that training in real time. And really, the goal is to ramp them as quickly as possible. I know that's silly to say because that's probably every sales org's number one goal. But for us, it's just, how can we get you on the phone, since phone is really big for us, as soon as possible, just to get those at bats. And then to kind of 60 days, and once they've had those at bats, starts to get a little bit more abstract into high level type things. The what versus the how. We start to teach a little bit more of the how to approach certain situations, as well as, I think why is important from day one. Why is pretty much important from even before day one in terms of interviewing. We want to make sure that it's company culture fit, as well as a good fit for them. We want to make sure that we're a good fit for them as well. But that's really probably that next step of 60 days is like, hey, here's how you can be a little bit more strategic. And they kind of start to understand and grasp exactly what it is that we're doing, as well as who we're going after, and the problem of why we're solving it and how we're solving it. I think that really starts to seep in around that time. And then once 90 days hits, they're pretty much full-fledged SDR. They can handle pretty much any situation and go from there and full ramp.
That's awesome. Really appreciate that information, Kiefer. And I think this is a perfect segue into the next topic here. I know we kind of had a chance to briefly talk about this earlier. Obviously, your guys' prospect and ideal customer profile is salespeople. So I feel like that obviously takes a certain type of person to know and really understand how a salesperson thinks. When you're like hiring and looking for new SDRs, are there any particular characteristics or traits that really stand out to you that would be a really good fit for Costello, or maybe just a company that kind of goes after salespeople as well?
Yeah, so that's a tough thing to answer, because not really. In terms of when I go into interviewing or talking to potential candidates, I really just look for an eagerness to learn, or willingness to learn, as well as somebody who's energetic and asks thoughtful, good questions. I know this is all kind of the typical, stereotypical things that people say when they look for salespeople or SDRs, but it really is kind of the same template, because not everyone is the exact same. So everyone's going to sell in a little bit different way. Really what I look for is some of those soft skills of, hey, are they taking a moment to think about what they're going to ask, and did I enjoy the conversation with them? Or, just, hey, did they maintain good eye contact? I know that's tough to do over the phone, but as I'm conducting conversations, I'm still kind of waving my arms around or looking at certain things as if I was having a conversation with somebody standing right across from me. So I just really, it's tough to answer, because you really don't know until they hop on the phones what they're going to be like. But even with that said, if they have a willingness to learn and a good attitude, they pretty much can help mold themselves to being able to perform the job well.
Absolutely. Super helpful. I always love asking that question, because everyone has kind of a different answer as to what they kind of look for in like a new rep when hiring. So appreciate that there. And Kiefer, I wanted to like switch the attention here to, I love your LinkedIn bio here. I'm going to read it again just because I love it. In the world of Spamageddon, salespeople have to be 5 times better to get the same results they had in the past. Helping reps execute the 3 to 5 critical moments of any and every sales call happens to be what we do. I remember when I first started my first SDR role, I would put a whole bunch of prospects in a cadence and hit send 200 times a day, and that was my prospecting. So I wanted to get your thoughts. Like, us as salespeople, we got to be adaptable, and that's what everyone's doing nowadays. It's obviously not working. So I wanted to get like your ideas and tips, like how are you guys kind of going around the storm and just making yourself be different, taking a different approach so that you're not just taking this spam-mageddon approach, so to speak?
I'm going to flip it around on you real quick, and I'm curious to kind of, because I know you've been doing SDR work for a while, I'm really curious to hear about what your process was like and what were some of the things that you did to stand out yourself when you were going into these prospecting, because like you said, kind of you blast just to get at bats, but then you start to understand, hey, here's how I need to talk about this. Just really want to kind of learn about your process personally and kind of your journey as well. And I can kind of help frame out how I might answer that question.
Sure. So obviously when I started, I realized that a post and pray approach or just spamming approach wouldn't be the best way to kind of go after things. So I really just try to tailor as much as possible and make it seem like I actually took the time to write something insightful or helpful to someone. I feel like it's very easy nowadays to distinguish if something is just sent through a massive message through LinkedIn Sales Navigator, or you have like, hey, first name on the email. So I don't know. I think throughout my time as an SDR, I've really just taken more of a strategic approach and really try to personalize things as much as possible without spending too much time on personalization. But I feel like nowadays even personalization might not even be enough. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And what I've seen the most success with is just really personalizing it and making it seem like a special message and perfectly crafted for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's helpful because that's a similar approach that we take here. And through, just you reading back my bio, which I might need to update a little bit. That's messaging that we were working with it really is kind of a world of spam-mageddon right now. A lot of people are ramping up the activity volume, which that's not necessarily the wrong thing to do. I just think we need to be intentional about how we do it. So really, to answer your question, we do try and take that qualitative approach. However, we do have our ideal customers that we go after broken out into different tiers. And it helps us as SDRs know when and where to spend our time and who to spend our time on. So tier 4 is, we have it in 4 tiers basically. Tier 4 is not people that we typically target, but they could be a possible market fit, product market fit, where we'll drop them into a more automated cadence where we've built out our messaging and our templates, and we'll just have them in kind of an automated email cadence that sends out every so few days or so. And if they click on it, that's when we reach out to them via phone. Then we actually have our tier 3, which is our targeted list of, hey, these are, the typical buyers. These are people that we want to go after, and then we drop them into a cadence as well. And it's like a 16-step cadence of a mix of email, phone, social touches, and you really have to utilize all 3 today in order to be effective, it seems like. And then we have our tier 2, which is more of a very targeted account of like very strategic stuff, which is a lot less people in the cadence. Hey, how can we personalize our outreach to them? What can we find in terms of triggers to be able to speak to maybe a pain they might have that or a solution that we could provide to them? And then tier 1 is what we call our whales, those Fortune 500 companies, the big names, the household names that we go after to see if there's a pain that we could go after as well. Those are even more so targeted. But those are a little bit more difficult just because sometimes these companies are legacy companies. They're a little bit more ingrained in their processes, and it's tougher to break into. But we still target those just on a much lower activity volume. So really that's how we break it out today into those 4 different tiers, and each one's different in how we reach out to them as well as our activity volume on each of those. Taking that qualitative approach is definitely something we try and do on every single one. Unfortunately, to get the results that you want to do, it's not physically possible to scale up personalization for every single person that you want to reach out to if you're not quite sure that they even have a problem that you can solve for.
Absolutely. That's great knowledge there, Kiefer. Really, really appreciate that. I think that's super helpful. But yeah, I wanted to dive a little bit deep into specifically where Costello was headed. Obviously, there's Silicon Beach, there's Silicon Valley, there's Silicon whatever nowadays. How is the tech space kind of growing in Indiana right now? And I mean, do you feel like in maybe 5 to 10 years from now, Indiana could be another giant tech hub, just like Silicon Beach or Silicon Valley?
I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily want that. But it's definitely grown a lot. I was born and raised here in Indianapolis, and I've seen major changes in terms of exact target versus just Salesforce coming in here. It's really been huge. There's been a huge leaps and bounds in terms of just the development that's come with the tech scene that's grown here. And there's tons of great startup companies here, tons of already established companies, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I'll put it that way. But it's definitely growing, and it's been great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kiefer, I wanted to get your thoughts. What do you enjoy the most about working in tech? Obviously, you had experience in the financial sector. What have you enjoyed the most about just selling technology?
Great question. It's really come down to, and I know this sounds so blah, but the community of just salespeople and tech people around here. Everyone's so welcoming. Everyone's willing to help at any moment. The willingness to help's been huge. That's really been big for my personal development and professional development, as well as just, it's a whole different sale. B2B is a lot different versus B2C, which I was doing a lot of business consumer, building through relationships, referral partners of realtors. There are a lot of transferable skills. I just much more so enjoy the B2B, just because people want to see you succeed, and they're willing to help you succeed. So the community's been the biggest thing. In terms of TechPoint, they've been huge. They're doing great stuff with everyone who's wanting to break into software sales or tech sales by making sure that they have a home. So if, for whatever reason I needed or wanted to move or was out of a job, I know that TechPoint would be a great resource for me to jump right back into another place. So really just like I said, I know it sounds very stereotypical, but the people have really been great.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think the community in tech is really strong. We're always supporting each other's stuff on LinkedIn. And of course, internally as well. So thanks so much, Kiefer. I always like to ask this question as we head towards the end of the podcast here. If anyone listening right now is maybe potentially considering a role in sales development as an SDR, or maybe is working at a local car wash in Indiana and wants to jump into tech sales, what advice do you have for them?
My advice to them would be reach out to people and just kind of interview people already in the space, get a good idea and a lot of context for what it is that they do on a daily basis, what they like about it, what they don't like about it. Make sure that it's certainly for you, because it's not for everybody. I kind of scoffed whenever I was interviewing and people would say that to me, but it really does make a whole lot of sense now. I've been doing it for a year, because it definitely is that grind. I would make sure that this is something that you really want to do, and make sure that you find a company that you feel really comfortable in, because that will be exponential to your growth and success as well.
Absolutely. I love the company part. I think that's really important. I think Costello would be a great place for anyone considering a role in sales development or just in tech sales as a whole. And I guess, Kiefer, if anyone listening to this podcast right now would, like to reach out to you to maybe perhaps schedule a demo of Costello, or someone who's just interested in exploring career opportunities at Costello, where can they find you and reach you?
So I've been pretty active on LinkedIn as of lately. You can always find me on LinkedIn. My name is Kiefer Dieckamp. I know it's very difficult to spell, and ordering food is quite a nightmare, honestly. But you can also email me, and then I can make sure that I post my cell phone number or something. I'm just happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk about software, tech sales, or being an SDR. It's always great to get a little bit of extra context of what people are going through. And it's funny to find and see that everyone's kind of going through the same thing, just in a slightly different manner.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it, Kiefer. It's always such a pleasure chopping it up with you, and really appreciate all the info that you shared with us today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Sales Dev Squad. If you would like to reach my friend Kiefer Dieckamp, feel free to find him on LinkedIn, or check out Costello's website as well. I'll have that in the comments below. But we will catch you guys on the next one. And thank you again, Kiefer, for hopping on today.
Thanks, Mateo. Have a great day.
Appreciate it. You too.